All right, we are back here on SportsLine getting set for the 19th running of the St. Jude Rock and Roll Marathon and Half Marathon coming up on Saturday morning. Starts downtown, the run all around Music City and end up at Nissan Stadium, which is a lot of fun. It is always a celebratory place when you get done, whether it is the 5K, the half marathon, or 26.2 in the full marathon. It is a good time if you're out there. So many people in the city go out there and just enjoy the day as well. Keats McGonigale is the Senior Regional Director for Ironman that helps put on the race here in Nashville. Rick Zortman is a St. Jude hero. We just heard his incredible story about his son Armstrong, who unfortunately passed away from cancer back almost 9 years ago now. And he's out there running and fighting the fight for other parents like himself, other kids like Armstrong, who have gone through very, very difficult times. As we get set for Saturday, a lot of people out there, have questions about how this impacts the city and things like that. And one thing that always comes up, I joked about at the beginning, but it's road closures. And you guys have a really cool way this year, if you're trying to get around town, to figure out how to do that the best on Saturday. Yeah, so if you use the Waze app, we've coordinated with them. They've plugged our course map into their app. And if you use that to get directions in terms of where you're going, it will automatically direct you around where the road closures are. So it's a pretty neat app that you can use. New to town coming, it's an app that I use on a daily basis, but it's something that can help everybody be successful on getting where they need to be on Saturday, even with the road closures. That's going to help a lot of people for sure this weekend. The other thing people need to pay attention to is how they get prepared for any race, right? And last year, I think we certainly saw that here because it was just so hot. You had to have been hydrated ahead of time to really have any chance to get through 13.1 or 26.2. Fortunately, as we said earlier, the weather shouldn't be that bad this year. But for people at home who just got into town or are here and they're running the race this weekend, Keats, what are the suggestions you guys have in terms of what they need to be eating over the next 48 hours, how much fluids they need to take in, all those good stuff before they run on Saturday? Yeah, so the biggest thing, if people have been training, I always tell people don't change anything race week. Do what you've been doing and being successful with that to get ready for the race. Everybody thinks, oh, it's race day, I got to do something extra special, something different. And my message is keep it the same. If it's been working for your training, then you want to keep doing that to be successful on race day. But as you are getting closer, you do want to pay attention to your hydration. One thing that I do as a runner leading up to a race is when I'm out and about town, I always have a water bottle with me, so for the days leading up to the event, I'm getting that extra liquid in, and I end up at the start line in a good place where my body's able to perform at its best. What about food? Because I've had probably a half dozen texts from people outside of town who are coming in to run this weekend, and every single one of them without fail asked me for good Italian restaurants to go to on Friday night to load up. I mean, are the carbs that necessary? Do you have to go pasta, or what's the best formula Friday night in terms of food before you run on Saturday? Yeah, so the meal the night before the race, again, stick with something that your body's used to. I wouldn't go out and try something that's real different than what you have been doing, so if you're in the week. Gluten-free, don't go do pasta on Friday night. Exactly, exactly, so eat foods that your body's familiar with, but to your point, you don't need to go out and go extra heavy on the pasta. You want to basically have a normal meal the night before, like you would just the night before a typical training run. Rick, what have you found? You've done, did you say 25, 26 half marathons at this point?
This will be my 24th half marathon.
24th half marathon. What have you found are some of your keys or go-tos as you get set for a race?
Okay, well, normally I will have pasta the night before, but there's actually been times where I've actually had like a French dip, or I've had a burger or pizza even the night before. And as long as you have something nutritious and just a meal beforehand, you should be fine race day morning. Just get up, have something light to eat, get something to drink within you, and then make sure you hit the stops, or most of the stops along the way as you're running, because those stops are there for you to hydrate and to keep you going, especially with it tomorrow being the best day, best running conditions. I mean, we're going to be starting low 50s tomorrow, so it's going to be perfect running conditions.
What about on the morning of the race? You mentioned all the stops along the way to stay hydrated and all those sort of things, but when you wake up, do you want to have much to eat? Do you want a little something? Is it a power bar? Like, what do you do race day morning?
What I normally do is I'll have like a granola bar and like some water. And then maybe like a half an hour, 15 minutes before, I'll have some of those beans. And then I'm kind of good to go when I start. And so, and then like every 3 or 4 miles, I'll like hit the beans again, and then I'll hit the water, and I'll hit the Gatorade. And I kind of rotate them, where it's like they say Gatorade here, and I'll grab the Gatorade, and then a few miles later, then I'll hit the water. And I just kind of mix them up. But you just want to do something that you're comfortable with.
Keats, in terms of runners that are sitting at home, you know, maybe they've watched this episode and it's probably not enough time to train and get out there and run one of the big races this weekend, but maybe they think, I like this, or maybe they have a cause like Rick and say, I want to start running for something moving forward. What's your beginner suggestion for someone?
The beginner suggestion is to start where you're at, you know. Most people, when they're getting into an active lifestyle, you know, have to start somewhere. And so I know a lot of people who have gotten into the sport literally by walking to the end of their driveway. You know, if they've got a long driveway, it's walking to the mailbox to get the mail and walking back, or walking around the block. You know, it's a way to get up, get active, and that's your starting point, you know. And then for us, again, that's part of the reason why we have the 1 mile. You know, most people, especially if you are in downtown and you're walking around seeing what's going on, a lot of people on a typical Saturday, they're going to walk 2, 3, 4 miles anyways, just enjoying the city, you know. So getting out and enjoying being outside, walking or jogging a mile is very accessible to a lot of different people, regardless of what their current fitness level is.
Rick, when you started and obviously worked yourself up to all these half marathons, how long was the process in the initial training to just get to this point, and then have you just kept it up ever since?
Well, when I started training for my very first half marathon, I actually did most of my training on a treadmill. And like my longest run was 6 miles, 6.5 miles on a treadmill, because I'd never done a half before. And so when I went into that, I'm like, I'm gonna run with a pace group. I'm gonna run an average of, my goal was a 2:25. And so like when I got to mile 11, they're like, you know, you can break away from us. And they just kept pushing me away, like, you know, you can go on your own speed. For my first half marathon, I didn't know what to expect. And so sometimes when you do the process, you know, you do a mile here, you do a mile here, you do 2 miles this day, have an off day, and 2 miles here. You kind of build up, and what you want to do is you want to journal it, so you have an idea of, you know, what are you eating, what are you walking, what are you running, and so that way you can look back and be like, okay, so I did a mile here, I'm going to take an off day, I'm going to do 1.5 miles here. Especially if you're going to do like just a 5K, which is just 3 miles. And then you just kind of, if you want to build up to a 10K or a half marathon, then build up to a half marathon. But the goal is to just start small and then work your way gradually up.
And Keats, Rick just brought this up about pacing though, but on race day, you know, whether you're a beginner starting this or somebody running this weekend, pacing's always important, even on race day, right? Because you hear the stories about people who go out a little too pumped up fast, and then it's a struggle later on. You always want to keep a proper pace and kind of know your body and how you run, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's one of the things that I think as an organization we do really well. So we have a group from a local running club called the Striders, and they have people who have run multiple half marathons and are used to pacing those things. And so they're our pace group. And you know, they have specific signs and specific times that will keep you on pace to be able to finish under that time. And one of the cool things that's new for us this year is all of those pacers are going to be wearing portable music players.
Oh, wow.
So running along throughout the entire course, yes, there's going to be 39 bands out there on the street corners.
That number's gone up every year, by the way,
Exactly,
which is awesome.
exactly. But if you're in one of those pace groups, regardless of where you're at, if you're between two bands, you're still going to hear the music, and those pacers will keep you from going out too fast, so you don't have the dreaded crash near the end in terms of not having enough energy to be able to finish strong.
Keats McGonigale is here, Rick Zortman as well. We're talking about the Music City, or I should say the St. Jude Rock and Roll Nashville Marathon coming up this weekend. We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the unique music along the course, and also maybe one of the more unique facets of the weekend, the kids race that comes up on Sunday. So we'll get into that as well when we come back here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.